Chapter 10. The Warrior's Greatest Love. The Modern World. Societies without love. Loneliness appears to be an inexorable condition of human beings. For average persons, loneliness is the most immediate expression of the unrealistic relationships that we have established with the world and with other people. We are surrounded by people in great numbers: family, friends, boss, subordinates, neighbors, but nevertheless are alone among them. We have been trained to possess, to use, to compete, to fear, to lie, and to hide, but not to encounter, to communicate, and to love. We arrange everything in order to stay separated. We are surrounded also by nature with myriad forms and colors, with trees and animals of all types, rivers, oceans, deserts, jungles, lakes, and mountains, a marvelous planet to inhabit, an infinite number of lights in the firmament of which to dream. Yet none of this affects us. We remain alone. We have learned that the world consists of many more or less inert things that were put here for our use. Our entire history appears to be nothing more than the gradual development of our capacity to use and exploit more and more the world of nature. A worldview such as this implies that we regard ourselves as being separate from nature. In the ancient Judeo-Christian tradition, as well as in more recent theories of Marxism or the economic vision of the capitalist world, nature is to be dominated and exploited. Always, Homo sapiens are the possessors of the earth. Their relation with her, one of use and exploitation. If this is the way we relate to the being who has given us a body and life, food, home, and beauty, then it follows that we would relate in a similar way to everything else, including other people. This is why a Western adult male is so capable of possessing a woman, and at the same time so incapable of loving her. This vocation of arrogance, violence, and avarice characterizes our way of being in these times. The result of so much violence is the tendency towards self-destruction, ranging from suicidal depression, increasingly common in today's society, to the wholesale destruction of the environment, which is surely the suicide of human society. All this in the midst of terrible loneliness. Remembering the earth. In my encounters with indigenous communities, I have discovered that there are other ways of relating to the earth and to nature. For a Mexican Indian, the earth is not of people, but people are of the earth. Indigenous peoples of Toltec descent speak of corn as no nakato, our flesh, expressing an awareness that the fruits of earth give us body and existence. Indigenous Nahuas of our time, here at the end of the millennium, still perform the ceremony of remembering the earth, whose real name is a secret shared only by those of us who have had the good fortune to participate in it. In this ceremony, the entire community, which normally appears to follow the religious calendar of the Catholic Church, retires to a group of caves known only to them for the celebration of a ritual. This ritual, whose nature I am not permitted to reveal, affords those participating the real possibility of connecting directly with the awareness of the earth. Not having a fixed date for celebrating this remembering the earth has made it impossible for the local priest, after 10 years in the community, to ascertain where and how his parishioners carry out such pagan rites, which he has been trying without success to eradicate. As far as I know, no other non-Indian has ever participated in this 3-day ceremony. Perhaps in another work, I will relate the circumstances that led to my being able to participate and what occurred afterward. After centuries of being dominated and exterminated, the indigenous Mexicans actively maintain their intimate relationship with the entity that has given them being. This feeling of integration and non-separation brings the indigenous peoples of Mexico to love the earth as a conscious living being. The same feeling allowed the pre-Columbian civilizations of America to develop a science and technology that could very well be called ecological. This technology permitted them to develop, for example, large population centers, 30 million inhabitants in the central region of the country, without perceptible deterioration of the environment. The message from the others. Today, with our unconsciousness at the point of destroying the earth, to turn our gaze to the indigenous world that knows alternative ways to relate to the world opens possibilities of encountering a message of life that we urgently need to hear, and we need to hear it now. This is a matter of life or death. Now we are at the point of destroying the last vestiges of these ancient civilizations. Now we are at the point of remaining completely alone after centuries of exterminating the others, the ones who are different. The thinking of Don Juan and his party of warriors is permeated also with this assurance and feeling of closeness to the earth, with love for the origin. A body of work such as that of Don Carlos also serves as messenger, a bridge between that world of magic and mystery and our own world of arrogance and boredom. The predilection of warriors is simple and clear, the manifestation of the awareness of human beings who know that the earth is the fundamental provider of everything. It is she who gives them a home, who feeds them, who provides beauty at every step, who is filled with mysteries, each one representing a challenge. The predilection of warriors is to secretly enjoy the warmth of the earth that envelops them. They are never alone. The earth accompanies and sustains them in all moments of life. She is that enormous being whose inexhaustible love aids in curing afflictions and sadness, who washes away pettiness. Awareness of the earth as profound and incommensurable yields power and secrets to warriors when they put forgetfulness and personal history to one side and humbly open their spirit to her sweet presence. As Don Juan says, for a warrior, there can be no greater love. The solitude of a warrior. Paradoxically, Warriors also know what it means to be alone, since they are aware that their struggle is strictly their responsibility, each life a personal journey. But the solitude of warriors is of a nature very distinct from the solitude of loneliness experienced by an average person. It is not painful or full of need. It is experienced as a joyful secret that permits them to intensely love everything that they touch, look at, or feel. They know how quickly life passes and have learned how to love from the inexhaustible and disinterested love emanating from the earth. With devotion to the earth as the fundamental feeling, they establish an intimate and warm relationship with nature and with people. Thus, warriors express in their person that peculiar equilibrium between two poles of an apparently irresolvable contradiction. They are solitary beings who are never alone. Immersed in this contradiction, they are aware of aloneness, knowing that being alone is nothing more than a human concern having to do only with the tonal. They know, having been there, that there exists a reality beyond the apparent one, in which a human being is but a piece of light, hardly differentiated, and only for a brief instant, against the great fountain that is our origin and destiny, the earth. The antidote for loneliness. If you were to ask for an antidote to the anguish of human loneliness, I would suggest that you re-encounter and re-examine the connection that unites us with the earth, our lost umbilical cord. I would invite you to recognize the presence of an inexhaustible love that remains unaffected by human affairs. It is not so difficult. Look around. Remember the being that sustains us and realize you are at home, always at home. I believe that in schools, before they learn to add and subtract, to buy and sell, to fear and lie, our children should learn to love and respect the being that gives them refuge. I have had the good fortune to see how the lives of people change and are enriched by simply opening their eyes to accept and return the embrace of the earth. They learn that each being of nature is kindred, born of the same womb. In these moments, our everyday attachments, such as anger, competition, envy, possessiveness, hungers, and unsatisfied needs, seem insignificant alongside more noble presences. Our limited world is suddenly transformed into a much larger world, made beautiful by the many beings it contains. Trees become significant. Birds, whales, flowers, dogs, humans, rivers, and mountains all become what they really are. Our natural heritage to be enjoyed and loved, but not possessed. We accept the personal privilege of witnessing its presence, if only for the short duration of our existence as mortals. Allowing ourselves to be affected by the beauty and the mystery of nature and all her expressions is to accept the gift of the earth and to recognize our forgotten nature. We are also beings in this world, another detail of the scenery. The same magic and mystery beats and moves within each one of us. We then, without reserve, occupy the place that belongs to us within the great concert of nature. Techniques. An infinite number of practices can serve to reconnect us with nature and with the earth. Anything will do. Taking a walk, climbing a mountain, swimming a river, petting a dog, or hugging a human being. As long as our attention is focused on the encounter itself and not on its usefulness. We should visit natural environments often, taking great care to avoid damaging them. With our heart and attention wide open to listen to nature's message, to re-encounter also our own natural being. We should get away from the cities where human affairs destroy everything and enter as often as possible into the world where everything occurs as it should. If we are attentive and perceptive, we can learn the rhythm of nature, the very rhythm we lack in our own lives. Many people have asked me about masters. I personally know of no master more knowledgeable than nature. It is quite enough to observe and imitate her. My work groups, climbing snow-covered peaks, rafting through turbulent rapids, taking long hikes across the desert or through tropical jungle, and penetrating into the earth through grottos and caverns, find that direct encounters with nature within a context of effort and learning are extraordinarily enriching. Sports in the open air, those mentioned and many others, can serve as a doorway to reestablish contact with the earth and optimize the use of personal energy, especially if those efforts are combined with a non-ordinary use of attention as described throughout this book. By way of example, here are some of the unusual procedures that have given beautiful and surprising results in reconnecting us with the awareness of the earth. 73. Alpinism arboreal. This technique has to do with an activity that many of us knew as children and that we did only for fun: climbing trees. In this case, however, we will be dealing with something a little more elaborate. My interest in trees arises from a personal experience upon encountering something much acknowledged in many ancient indigenous traditions, including Don Juan's: the natural empathy that trees have for human beings. On many occasions, I have been able to prove this affinity. In each, one or several trees have helped in several ways, relieving sadness, revealing some secret, curing a non-physical illness, filling the spirit with peace, or simply teaching a song. Even the average person can verify that trees are extraordinarily splendid beings in their relationship with humans. They treat us to their scenic beauty. They transmit to us tranquility and harmony when we look at them. They provide for rest in their shade. They give shelter and comfort with their wood. And they provide oxygen to breathe. While we insist on contaminating the atmosphere, they go to great lengths to clean it. And there is much more within the awareness of trees if we are capable of opening ourselves to it. The exercise consists of climbing a tree and, once situated, practicing not doings to allow you to link yourself with the awareness of the tree. Any tree will do, as long as its trunk and branches are strong enough to support your weight without fear of breakage. Also, your approach to the tree should be open and respectful. You must be extremely careful not to injure the tree in any way if you hope to establish a good relationship with it. To begin, first contemplate the tree a while before climbing it, letting feelings of sympathy flow toward it, as it will no doubt notice. Next, talk to it, convey greetings, and ask permission to climb it, explaining your motive for doing so, and assuring it that you will be very careful. Merely talking aloud to a tree can be an immense help for dispelling confusion or sadness in moments when you need advice. When you are ready to climb, choose a tree of moderate height that has branches close to the ground to facilitate ascent. To climb, use the 3-point technique, making sure 3 extremities are well supported while moving the 4th. For example, stand with both feet on a limb with the right hand firmly grasping a branch before moving the left hand to a new point of support. Or lift the right leg to a higher branch while maintaining both hands and the left foot on a firm support. Should the point you are reaching for give away, you won't fall, since these 3 points of support will keep you firmly supported. Just remember, move one extremity at a time while keeping the others securely anchored. Branches are stronger and more resistant to weight at the point where they join the trunk. So step as close to the trunk as possible, especially when thinner branches are involved. As you gain experience, this exercise can take on a character more like mountain climbing, tackling trees as high as 100 feet, reaching the lowest limbs even several yards above the ground. Small branch stumps, knots, and hollows in the bark can serve as points of support for the experienced tree climber. In work groups, we often joke that a tree has not truly been climbed until our navel projects above the crown of the tree, while we are balanced on its topmost branches. It is less difficult than it seems, but it is necessary to learn little by little so as not to injure yourself or the trees. We have specialized in climbing conifers like ones found in woods in Michoacan, Puebla, and the state of Mexico. But almost any type of tree would work as well. Climbing a tree while maintaining alertness and concentration constitutes the basic exercise. The higher and more complicated the climb, the better. Once at the top, many exercises can be performed. For example, find a place to rest among the high branches, learning to adjust body posture to their configuration. Practice merging your awareness with that of the tree, visualizing yourself as another branch of the tree, trying to assimilate its state of being, feeling and rocking with the wind. Observe the tree taking note of the feelings that it produces in you. Form them into a song. Spend the night in a tree. If you are not experienced at this, tie yourself to reduce the risk of falling while asleep. A variation which can be used for purposes of purification is to hang a hammock between 2 high branches and spend the night there. An appropriate precaution against falling is to lace the edges of the hammock shut in such a way that you are totally enclosed. Tell the tree your sorrows or what makes you happy according to the circumstances. Make up your own exercises or learn some directly from the trees themselves, which, not for nothing, are called our big brothers. 74. The rhythm of the earth. This exercise is at once very easy and very difficult. Although the procedure is very simple, it requires a special state of being to carry out. We must be capable, by our own means, of reaching a state of heightened attention in order to involve ourselves in the task without reserve or anxiety. Of course, a certain amount of available energy is required as well. I mention the procedure here, having already established that this experience is well within the reach of almost all who have worked continuously and sincerely in saving energy, in cultivating attention, and in integrating themselves with nature. This exercise consists of taking a hike, which can include alternately walking, jogging, or running. One fundamental aspect of this exercise is finding and maintaining the same rhythm in your pace, as well as in your breathing. They must remain synchronized. For this to be fully carried out, your rhythm must be assimilated from the rhythm of the earth. Only the earth can teach you her own rhythm. Your task is to achieve the connection. There is not much to say regarding a procedure for achieving this. I can make a suggestion from my own experience. Look for this connection by taking a long hike through the mountains, the jungle, or the desert in an uninhabited zone, away from highways and populated areas. With my groups in Mexico, we sometimes hike through a portion of the Sierra Norte in the state of Puebla. The hike should last several days with the objective of simply walking and training the attention. Begin by walking in the manner described in the walk of attention. Exercise 34. Concentrate on finding and maintaining a rhythm between walking and breathing. This should not be altered for irregularities in the terrain, such as in ascents and descents. Keep walking until you have achieved connection with the earth. Changing to a jog only if the body is motivated spontaneously to do so, without intervention of mind or desire. The same applies to running. It is possible to combine them, changing from a walk to a jog and a jog to a run, according to the configuration of the terrain or bodily feeling. The trick is to maintain the same rhythm in spite of any change in velocity. Do not forget the earth at any moment. Remain aware that you are walking on her. You can convert each step into a remembrance of the earth, caressing her with the feet, without letting this affect in any way the natural way of walking. The longer you walk without interruption, the greater will be your chances for success. Since the sharpening of the attention is one of the principal ingredients for achieving this link with the earth's awareness. When this occurs, you are no longer the walker moving yourself along. Rather, you are propelled by a force, what is known as the earth's boost, which can change your walk into an all-out run whose velocity can surpass all expectations. Needless to say, when this occurs, fatigue, time, and distance are parameters that no longer function. There is no room for speculation when this connection is made, since the feeling of being possessed by a power beyond the self is so overwhelming. 75. The burial of the warrior. Carlos Castaneda makes reference in different parts of his work to the practice of warriors burying themselves. He says that warriors bury themselves in the earth to find clarity, or to receive instructions, or to cure themselves of a malady. However, he does not go into great detail. I have experienced voluntary burial, and I have assisted others in achieving it as well. In these experiences, I have witnessed some of the many and varied effects, all beneficial, it has on the practitioner. A few examples. Recapitulation is enhanced while we are buried, due to the enormous force of the earth, who knows of our task and collaborates with us. When people who have expressed very painful losses, or who are in states of depression, are buried, the earth has shown that she can heal emotional wounds better than anyone, since she has the capacity to absorb all types of unpleasantness. The earth can help us to find answers and clarity in personal matters. The earth can help to recharge our energy before or after a particularly demanding task or challenge. The earth can help us penetrate into aspects of the other self. At the point of experiencing significant change in our lives, we can bury our old self and allow the birth of our new being. When we bury ourselves, we can obtain help from the earth for just about anything, as long as we have a clear purpose. The more clear our purpose, the more clear and conclusive will be the result. I have practiced two types of burial: above ground, by constructing a cage of earth, and below ground. The types can be used interchangeably, although I personally consider below ground better when there is great urgency. Normally, above all the first few times, the assistance of another person will be required, preferably someone who has experienced this exercise himself or herself. The assistant's fundamental role will be to watch over you while you are buried, keeping outside disturbances away and offering any kind of help needed. Generally, when you are buried for the first time, you will enter more freely into the exercise if you know someone you trust is caring for you. The instructions are: 1. Select an appropriate spot for burial. It must be in an uninhabited area, preferably among trees. Beginners should avoid the desert, the jungle, and near the ocean or large rivers. Also avoid areas where spectators are likely to disturb you or be alarmed by your activities. Avoid anthills, insect nests, and snakes. Places with a high energy content are appropriate if you are familiar with such places. Under no circumstances should this exercise be done near archaeological ruins or a cemetery. A simple forest will be quite appropriate. 2. Find a specific site within the chosen area, trying to sense with the eyes, a place that appeals to you in some way. Avoid slopes or the edges of gorges and ravines, as well as damp areas. 3. With a stick, mark off the area required to bury yourself lying down. Rectangular in shape, a little longer and wider than the body. Just large enough to lie in with a blanket in case you will be staying for any length of time and it happens to be cold. The tomb should be oriented so your head points toward your favorable direction. You must find for yourself the most appropriate method to find the true direction. If that is not known, choose the east or the south. 4. Now begin digging a tomb in the earth, using some kind of pointed stick. Depth should be a little less than 2 feet. The excavated soil should be piled next to the tomb on the left side. 5. Next, gather enough fairly straight sticks, around 2.5 feet long, to make a covering for the tomb, and branches with foliage and large leaves to seal the spaces between the sticks, to prevent dirt from falling through when the tomb is covered with soil. The sticks, branches, and leaves should be piled next to the tomb to be on hand as needed. 6. Begin closing the grave by placing the sticks crossways very close together, starting from the feet end and going up to the shoulders. Place the leaves and branches over the sticks, and finally, place soil over these until the sticks and branches are totally covered. Some kind of cotton cloth or other non-synthetic fabric the size of the body may be placed between the sticks and the branches to prevent dirt from filtering through. 7. Now prepare for entry into the tomb. It is best to have an almost empty stomach and to relieve yourself beforehand. Drinking a little water is also a good idea. As a preparation, you can perform some of the exercises of the skeleton, exercises 19, 20, and 21, mentioned in the section on the awareness of death, or a personal ritual dealing with your departure from the world can be performed if you are practicing this exercise for purposes of change. 8. Enter the tomb feet first through the hole left at shoulder height, being careful not to disturb the sticks or the soil upon entering. 9. Once inside, complete the covering of the tomb by carefully placing the rest of the sticks, branches, leaves, and soil. You can do this from inside the tomb, or the assistant can close up the tomb from the outside. In any case, make sure to leave a small hole, 4 inches by 4 inches, to allow entry of air, but not of light should this exercise be done during the day. One way to deal with the problem of light is to locate the air hole near the feet, with the head end completely sealed. 10. Submerge yourself in the experience until it is time to come out. Here are some additional considerations. Each step should be considered part of a ritual in which the digging, gathering branches, and covering with soil are all done without talking or any other kind of dispersal of attention. This is done so that when you bury yourself, you will have achieved a sharper state of awareness through attention. The ideal way to do this exercise is in the nude, especially when it is used for the treatment of ill health or serious illnesses of the spirit, in which case cold climates must be avoided. Take into account that below ground temperature is colder than atmospheric temperature, and that soil tends to retain dampness. If it must be done at low temperatures, you should be dressed and take along a blanket or a sleeping bag. You may also use a small pillow. Do not allow yourself to be frightened by what might occur while buried. Many things considered unusual in the everyday world are normal during burial. Voices, visions, experiences beyond the confines of the tomb itself, feelings or revelations. The burial of the warrior is a voyage, but in any case, you can be sure it will be a trip to there and back again. Maintain sobriety and face whatever is necessary. Attention to breathing and singing songs of power, or creating some on the spur of the moment, can help maintain sobriety. Let feelings flow freely through laughter, crying, songs, words, moods, or whatever the body requires. The period of burial can vary a great deal according to the warrior and the circumstances of burial. Remaining buried all one night or all one day is usually enough. With a little practice, or in cases of necessity, you can remain for 24 hours or more. For periods of more than 24 hours, you should be buried with some light, nutritious snacks, such as dried fruit and cereal and water. Combining burial with the practice of fasting should be done only under the strict supervision of someone who has experience in these matters. The best hour for terminating the exercise and leaving the tomb is in the pre-dawn twilight, or occasionally during sunset. For burial above the ground, using the cage of earth method, follow the same steps outlined above, but instead of digging a hole in the ground, gather sticks roughly 2 feet in length that form a Y shape on the upper end, to be used as supports for the transverse sticks. The other end is inserted into the ground. Once the cage is constructed, it is covered with branches and leaves, and then with soil. During construction, the head end is left open to facilitate entry when the moment arrives. 76. A re-encounter with the earth. This exercise can serve as either a prelude or a finale to the other exercises detailed in this section. It deals with the intimate experience of a re-encounter with the earth, like the reunion of two beings who love each other but haven't seen each other for a long time. For this reunion, choose a place that no one else knows about, a place that can remain a secret forever. You may know of a place beforehand, or you can go out and look for one. Preferably, it should be in a remote location. If reaching it requires a long walk or a climb, so much the better. However, in reality, any place chosen for an appointment with the earth will do, since there is no way she will slight you by not responding to your encounter. Arriving at your place, lie face down on the earth, embracing her. You must feel and soak yourself in her presence. Then, still embracing and caressing her, begin to talk aloud to her. using intimate and personal words, telling her how grateful you are that she responded to your call, and for always having been there. Explain to her the world from which you have come and why you had forgotten her. Tell her of those lonely moments of life when you did not remember her, of the lack you felt, and how happy this reencounter makes you. Offer her 1 or 2 actions that you will carry out in the daily world that will help you remain aware of her presence and company. And finally, promise not to forget her again, but to love her until the moment arrives when she again takes you into her bosom to free you from all burdens. At last, give her a kiss and return to the world, immersed in her secret and loving embrace. Additional considerations. To finish up this present volume, I would like to add some considerations relating to the material presented throughout the preceding pages. What has been presented represents one of the fundamental pillars of my work as investigator and coordinator of work groups. It does not encompass all of its aspects. For 12 years, I have worked simultaneously with groups and in field investigations using a new form of anthropology that I term anti-anthropology, offering new possibilities in the fields of psychology and psychotherapy, nourished by the encounter with nature and what I would dare call Toltec psychology. Anti-anthropology regards human beings from the point of view of wholeness, far more than what we know in modern societies. The work in groups has served as a testing ground for applying the results gleaned from field investigations, and, in its turn, has been one more aspect of the investigation itself. Thus, fieldwork outside the groups has nourished the functional development of group work, and this development has contributed new elements that have nourished the investigation in the field, as well as the group work itself. The themes, objectives, and theoretical frameworks of my investigations prove too complex, extensive, and above all, inappropriate to try to explain at this time. This is not a work of theory or methodology, but of concrete practice. It is directed not toward theoretical or special investigators, but toward the restless individual who desires to explore new possibilities of experience, knowledge, and freedom to the point where he or she is responsible enough for personal experimenting in place of being content only with thinking, imagining, or conversing. The fundamental theme of these investigations and my work in general is, naturally, human beings and their unexplored possibilities. My restlessness as an investigator has not been much different from the natural restlessness of any human being, especially the ones who have discovered their own mortal questions. Who are we? Of what are we made? Why am I not happy? Do I have to live exactly like everyone else? Can I choose? Is there an alternative? Are there other realities? In the encounter with the otherness, I have discovered that there are alternatives and that another way to live does exist. we truly can choose and make for ourselves a world and a life that exists in harmony with the aspirations of our spirit. I am not saying this is easy. I am saying it is possible. I can say it because I have proven it to myself. The truth is that achieving it requires us to detach ourselves from many of the habitual conceptions that we have assimilated from our society and to recover parts of our being that society has encouraged us to forget altogether. As Don Juan said, inside all of us, there is hidden a sorcerer for whom we secretly yearn. We yearn for the magic, the mystery, and the freedom of that sorcerer. My curiosity to know about human beings and their possibilities is what brought me to the study of anthropology. The encounter with indigenous peoples is what caused me to adopt anti-anthropology, with the aim of transforming myself instead of transforming them. From them, I also learned that while psychology and psychoanalysis hold a limited view of the human being based on our Western way of life, the indigenous cosmovision reveals facets of awareness unexplored by modern science. From these, we could develop forms of therapy, sometimes called ethnotherapy, based on the knowledge these indigenous cultures possess about human nature. My encounters with nature, in her many forms, particularly with the mountains, the trees, and marine mammals, allowed me to discover that nature herself was the best therapist and teacher I could find. Over the years, I found that I had put together a great quantity of material and experience that was reflected in the consistent results made manifest through the efforts of those participating in the groups. It seemed this material could make novel contributions to the human sciences in general, and to anthropology, psychology, and psychotherapy in particular. Restless young people, innovators, and specialists in these areas participated in the work in order to enrich their own. The requirements of these specialists and the certainty that the results of this work could have benefits for the work of others, as the work of others at times enriched mine, brought me to the conclusion that I had to put these discoveries down in writing. The accumulation of information, facts, and experience, in a certain way so diverse, was such that it demanded not one, but several works encompassing the principal areas of this work. I decided that the first to be published would be that which related to the work of Carlos Castaneda. The task of practical application of the proposals contained in his books, together with my experiences among the Indians, has constituted one of the central axes of my work. And I hope to establish a first point of contact with those many people who, though also restless, would nevertheless remain ignorant of these experiences. The material presented here does not include all of the practices that have been developed. Rather, it deals mainly with the fundamentals of those exercises that can be practiced without the need of a guide or a work group, strictly to aid the work of the solitary warrior. There are 3 other works in progress. The first will be a treatise on the applicability of my discoveries in the practice of anthropology, psychology, and psychotherapy. The second will be on my experience and methods of work in the formation of encounter groups and their development. A third book will deal with poetic experiences in the widest sense of the term that have been shared in the work groups. In this last one, I hope to relate not only moments of amazing magic, but also some of the many stories, poems, and songs that have risen up in the heat of group encounters. Besides these, I have material in restricted circulation directed towards specialists interested in the formation and coordination of groups. If you desire more information about any aspect of this work, make contact through courses, seminars, and workshops that are offered from time to time, or write to the following address: Victor Sanchez, Apartado, Postal Number 12-762, CP 03001, Mexico, DF, Mexico. The end.